demonstration, I'm going to be installing the Windows 10 operating system. Now, before you can get started, you're going to need the installation media, the installation files for Windows 10. Here I've navigated to Microsoft's website where I can download Windows 10, and there are a variety of options here. One of which is to run the Update Assistant to help me update to the newest current version of Windows 10. But as I go further down, I can also create Windows 10 installation media. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Download Tool Now link to do that. Now that's a media creation tool executable that I'm then going to launch. So I will accept the license terms and agreement. I'm then presented with the option to either upgrade this PC now or to create installation media, whether I want to install Windows 10 from a USB flash drive, a DVD, or an ISO file. So I'm going to select Create Installation Media and I'll click Next. I'm going to leave the default selection for the language, the edition, and the architecture, which is 64-bit here for Windows 10. And I'm going to select ISO file. An ISO file represents the structure of a disk, in this case for the installation of Windows 10. So I'm going to click Next. And I'm going to save this as a specified file on my machine. The file name is really up to me. Okay, so now we've got an ISO, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use VMware Workstation on my computer to create a Windows 10 virtual machine by installing Windows 10 from that Windows 10 ISO. So here in VMware Workstation, I'm going to choose Create a New Virtual Machine. It will be typical, so I'll click Next. I'll choose I will install the operating system later. It's going to be Microsoft Windows, and specifically we're going to select Windows 10 from the list, x64. I'll click Next. I'll leave the default for the name and the storage location and the disk. I can always add additional virtual hard disks after. And I'm going to click Customize Hardware because what I'd like to do is point my virtual CD and DVD device to the ISO image file that we just created to install Windows 10 from. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and click Browse to choose that ISO. And once I've done that, I'll click Close and I'll click Finish. Now currently, the memory assigned to this is 2 GB of RAM and the processors is 2. I can change those items as needed later. For example, if I click Edit Virtual Machine Settings, I could select memory and perhaps bump it up to 4 gigs of RAM or whatever I think I need to run that virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and click Power on this virtual machine, and I'll click inside of it, and I'll press any key to boot from the DVD installation media. I'll just go to View Full Screen, and then View Exclusive Mode. Okay, so the language to install will be English. I'm going to accept the default for the keyboard layout to be US, and I'll choose Next. And I'll choose Install Now. So I'll choose to accept the license terms, and I'll click Next. I'll choose Custom Install Windows. Here's my 60 gig virtual hard disk. So I do have the option down below here of deleting partitions, creating partitions, formatting partitions. I'm going to leave the default selection to use the entire 60 gig drive. I'll choose Next, and it's in the midst now of copying Windows files. Okay, so once we get to this part of the installation, we're asked to select a region. I'll leave it on United States, and I'll click Yes. And I'll accept the US keyboard layout, and I will skip adding a second keyboard layout. So when you do a manual Windows 10 installation, you can sign in with a Microsoft account, or down at the bottom left, you can also choose Domain Join instead. And for the name of the person that will use this PC, I'll put in C. Blackwell, and I'll put in a password, and then I'll confirm the password. So this is just a local Windows account I'm creating on this host, and then I could choose to join an Active Directory domain after if I wanted to. And then I'll specify a couple of security questions for this particular account. Then I'm asked to select privacy settings for my device, such as Find My Device for locator services. I'm going to leave all the defaults selected, and I'll just click the Accept button. Microsoft Cortana is like a virtual assistant that uses the Bing search engine to search up items. However, I'm going to choose Not Now. And once that's done, we're signed into Windows 10 here, and we've got our Start menu available, but notice that the screen display isn't optimal here in VMware. And that's because we should install the VMware tools to optimize things like the video display driver. So I'll press Ctrl-Alt to reveal my menu. I'll go to VM, and I'll choose Install VMware Tools. That will mount a DVD drive here in Windows, and I'm going to choose Run Setup 64, and I'll accept the defaults to install VMware tools. And I'll just continue through the wizard, accepting all of the default selections. And after a moment, our video display has been optimized. It asks to restart our system for everything to take effect, so I'll go ahead and choose yes. Okay, so now we've got full screen. I'm just going to go to the VM menu and send Control-Alt-Delete, and we'll just sign in as the user account we created during the installation. And at this point, we're ready to rock and roll. We've got our Windows 10 virtual machine installed. If we were installing this on hardware, of course, we'd have to make sure that our hardware met the Windows hardware compatibility list. And if I go to my Start menu, let's say, and go to a command prompt with CMD, let's just enlarge this for a moment to make sure that we can see what's happening. If I were to type ipconfig, we would get a valid IP configuration based on the network, the virtual network configuration for this virtual machine. And if I were to ping something like www.google.com, then we would get our reply because we are connected to the internet. So we have successfully installed Windows 10. If I were to clear the screen with CLS and run the system info command, it would return details about things like the edition of Windows 10 that we've got installed. So if I scroll all the way back up, here the OS is showing as Windows 10 Enterprise Evaluation.